Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of The Medium. I played it on the Xbox Series X, it's also available on the Xbox Series S, and Windows through Microsoft Play and all that shit. So let's get into the story. You play as Marianne, who is a medium, so she can connect to the spirit world and the regular world, and she has used her power thus far to help souls pass on. Spirits that feel they have, like, unfinished business and so on, she helps move on to whatever is next. And she helps them move on from what is this, like, in-between world, and it's really kind of spooky and horrible looking. But it's pretty cool because she can exist in both worlds at the same time, and she can manipulate things in both worlds at the same time, and that's very important to the story because anything that happens in the spirit world will affect her in the real world. But she gets a call from a man named Thomas, and he has her go out to this place called Neva. It was a resort, something really, really bad happened there, and, you know, you get the idea. She needs to explore and find out what happened. And of course, it's much deeper and goes further than that. And I gotta say, one thing I really enjoyed, and I think it's one of the reasons it's getting a lot of comparisons to Silent Hill, is from a story standpoint, The Medium definitely dives into that psychological as well as spirit elements of what's going on. A lot of the things, they represent certain psychological things that have happened. And I think the storytelling does a good job with that. But the one negative I do have regarding the story is they definitely opened up some subplots and then they didn't answer them. And the ending is, it's good, but it is one of those endings that is painfully ambiguous and you really want more. Now let's get into the audio. First off, the soundtrack is fantastic. It's really great to hear some music from Akira Yamaoka again because, well, he did a lot of the Silent Hill soundtracks, and the best ones, in my opinion. As for the voice acting, some of it is really, really good, and some of it is not quite as good, but still not bad. It's still pretty well done overall. I was actually impressed with it, given that this isn't like the biggest AAA game, and it's well done though. As for the sound effects are very, very good, which is always important in a horror game because, I mean, sound matters in that situation more than a lot of other things. Sound is super important in horror games, more so than in a lot of other games. So let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and before you get into this game, yeah, there have been a lot of comparisons to Silent Hill, which is about all I heard. I didn't really read anything going into it. And what I will say is, story-wise, and visually similar to Silent Hill, but gameplay-wise, it is not a survival horror game. It is much more of an interactive narrative, basically exploration, solve puzzles. There's really no combat. There are some situations where you can get chased and die, but it's not so bad that it will wear you down. Like, I feel like other games don't do it as well, they abuse it. But I will say, yeah, you do get chased, yeah, you do have to sneak about a bit, but it's not overdone. And quite frankly, it's well done. But the core of it is exploring the world, piecing together the story, helping souls pass on, etc. And as I mentioned in the story part, you can at times go into the spirit world, but when you are in the spirit world, you are still in the physical world. And it's kind of neat because it goes split screen and you have to interact with both sides at times. I just thought that was really well done. I thought it was a fairly unique feature and I'm hoping to see more of it. You can also, when you are in that split mode, you can basically go out of body and explore certain areas that you can't get to because they're physically blocked. So while you can see that they're open and accessible in the spirit world, because they're blocked in the physical world, you can't go there without going out of body, and I thought that was a cool element as well. Now, on to the controls. As for the controls, I think for the most part they work very well, except for the movement. There are definitely times where I got caught in a corner and I couldn't get out of the corner because the controls weren't really doing what I wanted. So that was frustrating at times, but it also didn't destroy the game. The game is very much fixed camera, so the controls work well for the most part with that. And when you're interacting with objects, you need to press A or X or whatever. It works, it responds. Which I'm gonna say was also a neat feature, was that when you are in the spirit world, your prompt buttons are different than when you are in the physical world. I thought that was a cool, just little added detail to the whole thing. But since it affects the controller, I will talk about it here. This game abuses the shit out of the vibration function in your controller. It did get to a point where it was a little annoying because, like, so many little things just triggered the vibration in your controller to the point where you're like, okay, I get it. It's getting annoying. Now, lastly, the visuals. I like the way this game looks. It's not the best looking game ever made, but it is a good looking game, and the world they have built is fantastic. Well, both the worlds, the spirit world and the physical world, I think they're really well done. You can see how they would exist in the real world, at least the physical world part, but you can see how the spiritual world mimics it, but in this really horrifying way. And that duality of the worlds is one of the other things that I think people are comparing it to Silent Hill for, and I can understand that, although I will say that those spiritual, the evil world, whatever you want to call it, is very different from the Silent Hill version. Which I think is good, because they made it very much their own, and you can see that they really put in the effort to make it their own. And like I said, not a lot of combat, so there aren't too many enemies, but there are some creepy, spooky ghosts, like Sadness. Man, she is creepy looking, even though she's not bad, but like there is also an enemy dude who, man, he's kind of gross. Yeah, gross, creepy. I do have one small complaint. There was this weird time where colors would get a little fucked up in just little patches on the screen, and it was weird, and I don't know why it would do that, but it did, and it wasn't horrible, and it didn't happen too frequently, but you will notice it when you play a few times. That being said, I want to go back to it, the world, man. Like the creepy flesh things and the bones and just the sinew-looking elements to it. I gotta say, that was really well done. And even in the physical world, this huge tragedy happened at Neva, and man, you can see that something went wrong, and exploring it, you get to just kind of experience at the same time what went wrong and how this horrible thing happened. So I really just have to praise the visuals because they did such a good job adding to the story, building the atmosphere, portraying Marianne's medium abilities. Just all of it came together very well visually. Now to wrap this up, I'm just gonna say I understand why there were comparisons to Silent Hill, but don't go into this game expecting a survival horror game like Silent Hill, but do play this game. Absolutely play this game. I was really impressed with it. I wasn't sure what I was exactly getting into when I went into it, but I am super glad that I played it. I really need a sequel or DLC, something that will help tie up some of those loose ends that they started, something that will give me some closure on the ending. I want more of this game. I loved this game. I really enjoyed it. I was really impressed by it. So yeah, I fully recommend it. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what's your favorite new horror game? As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one. She gets man. Now, on to the controls. I think the controls, for the most part, that's not the word.